Izaigrimizi olvasta moja umečka. Mocanete se manaškozi bovalečka, madoji geti. Now this will anečka olvat. Mo pumanečken a ujučevi hagigas umečen bovis. Ja adilogia lo odopnitečken nagike jadikon čembovis. Amen.
All right. I want to welcome everybody that's watching on the internet to our Muskogee Language and Culture Study Group, Red Stick Warriors. And we feel very privileged to have Mr. Ted Isham that's going to be facilitating the class tonight. We are at the OCMA building in Oklahoma City. Special thanks to Teresa Gouge and Blue Clark for accommodating us with the use of the facility. So without any further delay.
Schedule, what's the schedule?
Oh, the schedule of the class, we are going to do approximately 1 hour. And this is our first in a series of 5. And tonight we're going to be going over the James Hill biography. And I'm going to let Mr. Isham tell you guys all about that. I hope you enjoy it. Mr. Isham.
All right.
Okay.
All right. So I think people that's online have an opportunity to tag questions. If we have, go ahead and post some questions if you feel free to do so. We'll try to get to them if we can. They only give me an hour to talk, and I have like 4 hours worth of notes. I don't know how I'm going to do that, so bear with us. So if they cut the lights out on us, then it's on the website.
We have a lady who wants to make an announcement.
Okay. All right. So.
She is actually the great-granddaughter of James Hill.
Okay, great. Yeah, that'd be great as a forward to this. So the classes are going to be looking at the Creek text by Mary Haas, the linguist, and James Hill, the Creek speaker that lived in Hannah area, Destin, or Eufaula area, and we'll be using that as a jumping-off platform for learning the Creek language as much as we can. So hopefully some of the other classes that people have had before, you'll be able to tie in and chime in with us. We've been on the internet, or Facebook, I guess. Yeah, Facebook, talking about the class and things. So the program that we have is set for live class on this night. The next one, or 2 classes, I believe, I can't remember, will be a strictly online. The next class will be online, then we'll have a live class again, and then we'll switch back and forth like that. So every week, stay tuned for the classes. They will be broadcast out, and I think they will be archived on the YouTube channel. So we'll be able to pull them down as you so see fit. So again, my name is Ted Isham. East Muskogee, OSJ. Kodo gogat amalegado and mundo and tolma justice amadoadoas. At this time, we have a special honor. We have the granddaughter of James Hill. That's the subject of much of this work. And if she would like to come up and speak, that would be really fabulous. All right. People on the line and in our local group.
I wanted to take just a few minutes to say thank you to the Red Stick Warriors Association, to Dave, Frank, and Jeremy for doing this. A little bit of history on the book. When Dr. Martin had the feelers out for the relatives of James Hill, it took a couple of years where they finally found me. My sister is Ruth Bible Ingram, and my middle sister is Alexis Crossley. There's another branch of the family still lives in Eufaula. And it took, almost 10 years for us to get to this point. But I wanted to thank you so very much for doing this, because about 5 years ago, when we made a switch from being just a biography of James Hill and my grandmother Fanny Salford, we wanted to make sure that it was used to further who we are, our culture, our language, our history. It became very, very poignant for us because it also talked about our family history. And we had always talked about our great-grandfather, James Hill, who we don't know how old he was exactly when he walked across the Trail of Tears. He told stories of being a little boy coming across the Mississippi River and how hard it was to walk, how terrible the things were that they endured. And he lived the rest of his life in Oklahoma and still continued to talk about what it was like walking in the removal, the experiences of the removal, and then what life was like after removal. And one of the things that Dr. Martin and I shared that was very poignant for my mother and my sisters and I was that he talked about how poor and what they didn't have. They had no clothes, they had no materials for clothes. So the tribe passed a law that said that if you were a young boy under the age of 12 years old, it was allowed, it was lawful that you could be naked and be naked as a child, not as a man, but as a child. That's how poor they were and how difficult life was after removal. And he talked about, in some of the texts, he talks about being a young boy and how they would be naked and running and playing in the Canadian River. And we lived close to the Canadian River, so we brought a lot of his history closer to our history when we were growing up. About 5 years ago, Dr. Martin and I, we'd conversed since 2003 and 4 about the book and the writings and how they came about. I shared the story with my mom, and she remembered Dr. Haas coming to our house. We lived about 10 miles west of Eufaula. And if any of you are familiar with Eufaula, you know out in that area, the sand is about 4 or 5 inches deep, and in the summer it gets very, very hot. She would walk from Eufaula all the way out to Grandma's house and meet with my great-grandfather and my grandmother, and they would talk, and they would teach her, they would write, do the manuscripts. And so it was a personal endeavor for the three of them to document all of this before it was gone. And I'm glad because today now we can do this, and it's in print before you to see the stories, see the legend, hear about our history after removal firsthand. And it will be available for your children and your children's children. About 5 years ago, Dr. Martin and I said, you know, it's one thing to talk about the biography of my great-grandfather and my grandmother, but it will last longer, it will have more value to our tribe and our people if it's a textbook. So 5 years ago or so, we decided we would change the direction of the book, and we did that successfully. It was very hard. They had to switch gears a little bit for the book. They also had to find different publishers to look who wanted to publish the book. It went from this concept of being a copybook biography to being a full text that people could read, learn, and listen, and take away with you what our life is like. And I think by you doing this, we've been successful. It's going to go on. It gives us more value than if it was just a copybook on the table that says this is pictures of Creek people. And that was the other thing that we endured, is we could only find one single picture of my great-grandfather. I think he was in the House of Warriors, and we could only find one when he was on council. And he was very old and very degraded, so we had a hard time looking for anything that would be printable to go into the book. And so that kind of played into our decision to move it from being a biography into a full-blown text. And it was very, I think in doing so, it gives us longevity as a text. And it being firsthand is maybe even more important to us as Creek people. But I wanted to tell you, thank you for being here tonight. And I wanted to thank the Red Stick Association for doing this. I think this is exactly what we had wanted as a family, and what Dr. Martin and his team have done. So I want to thank you. But
All right. That's fabulous. Because I wanted to tell that story about Mary Haas, but I wasn't absolutely sure that it was true that she had to walk. She walked every day to work on this with James Hill. And I guess from the stories or from somewhere I remember hearing somebody say that they had to feed her too. So she stayed well into supper time, coincidentally. But she was a poor linguist at the time and just barely making enough money to do this work. But we're lucky, we're grateful that she did do that. As she was saying, this text represents a great deal of information that we have today that we can look back at and look into and study it and dissect it. And so tonight I want to cover a few things, a brief overview of the text, and look at a couple of things about the autobiography. And in the midst of doing that, we'll do that with every lesson. We'll pick one of the stories out and we'll dissect it. We'll unpack it and see what kind of nuggets we can come up with it. So it's up to each individual what they pull from this. All of the text, the snippets I've put up on the website here that you can link to and look at the PDFs that we have. So tonight's the autobiography. What's fascinating about this is there are many different layers of information that you can gain and glean from looking at these texts. You can learn about the language by studying it. You can learn about linguistics if you want to go in that direction. You can learn about history. There's a great deal of history in this book of our people. There's a great deal of lifeways and customs that are in here that have been recorded. There are things that we as modern Greeks can look back on and see as something that we can strive to as the way it was. The information that's contained in this book is pretty much absolutely pure in that respect of that it comes from a real person that experienced all these things, like she said, the Trail of Tears and the Civil War and just different things that we read about in our history as a Greek people. So we can see those things and we can see how life was at that time. Look back, we look back at with the lens that this book affords us. James Hill, like she said, lived west of Eufaula, and he was a member of Hillabi ceremonial grounds. And so there's a great deal of information that he talks about, and some of it about ceremonial ways. There's a great deal of information he gives about the stories that we all hear snippets of anymore. We never hear the full details of it. So we'll briefly delve into some of the table of contents to see what kind of information is packed in all of those. And we have taken out 5 topics that we thought we would start off with. And in doing so, hopefully we can learn some language, learn some culture, learn some history, and hopefully somebody learn some linguistics. I'm gonna be heavy on linguistics. So that's what we'll do. So this text came about by, or this work came about. I'm not sure about the text because Jack and them worked on it 10, 15 years ago. Started that work. But the work itself started when Mary Haas got her PhD from Yale, I believe, and in linguistics in 32, 34, somewhere in there, and got a fellowship or stipend, which isn't luxury living. It's just barely enough to pay for a can of beans, and a little bit of gas money to go into the field, what they call field work, and study linguistics or languages. And one of the languages that she studied a great deal of the Southeast languages. But one of them, for us, and luckily for us, was the Creek language. And she came to Eufaula, Oklahoma, and found James Hill to work with, and discovered a great deal about the history and the culture, and looking at it through the lens of linguistics. And so these texts that we have produced now, that we see produced now, it's like an 800-page book. what somebody told me makes a good doorstop. But anyway, who will remain nameless. But Rosemary. But what's contained in this text are a great deal of information that was collected firsthand, pretty much, and from a person that we would probably call today a human recorder, tape recorder. So with linguistics, she was able to transcribe everything she heard very, very accurately. And so if we look real deep into these texts, then we can see a great deal of detail about the language and how it's constructed and how it's used and how it sounds even. She has captured that. And she did that with her field books, her field notes got from Berkeley. And they reproduced them for me. And so if you look at those, and I have those up on the website also, if you look through those, so any material that you need, you have to go and get from the website. I'm trying not to kill any more trees than I have to. I already did that too many for this other class we did in the summer. So all the material that we're going to be talking about will be on that website. So the field notes are really, in particular for me, very interesting because it shows the depth of linguistics that she used to capture what they were saying. She chose not to use, in 36, she chose not to use a tape recorder because the tape recorders probably were trunk sized at that time and very bulky and probably way more than she could ever afford. So she used and relied on her ear to capture every nuance that came out of people's mouths. And that's a intimidating fact if you ever be around those kind of people. But it's no different than what we hear today, what we see, what the court stenographer does. They capture every sound that comes through. They don't know what to do. They just type sounds. So the same thing happens with linguistics. You learn a set of basic symbols and sounds that the human voice produces, and then you learn how those come out, and then you can hear them, and you can transcribe them, you can write them down without thinking about what it is. So it's not the fact that she knows this language, or knew the language when she came. She probably didn't know it. One of the conferences that she went to before she passed away, in the 60s, I believe, she made the statement. She'd get up in front of these academics, professors from all these big universities all across the United States, and say, I'm the last speaker of Tunica or Biloxi or Ofo, one of these languages that are down in the Mississippi Delta. You know, when I first read that, I said, well, who is this lady that has this kind of arrogance? But it's the fact that the language was dead. The last speaker that she was working with passed away, and she had been working with him and transcribed all these things, and so she knew how to speak that language. She didn't say she was fluent, but she knew the details of how that language was constructed and how to utter words and make statements and converse. So the same kind of process happened when she worked with the Creeks. She studied it in a linguistic fashion, which broke it down into its parts and dissected it all the way down, and then she made conjectures and suppositions about how it should be, and then had people repeat these things over and over again. I'm sure people were tired of seeing her come around, but she always had arcane questions to ask her. I remember when I was in linguistics down at OU, I went to my stepfather and would ask him things. How do you say this and how do you say that? And according to the linguistic rote that we learned in class. And he says, you can't say it that way. You don't ever say it that way. And I said, well, wait a minute. Now we have a rule that's supposed to show. And it turns out I was asking the question in the wrong fashion or so. And so he wouldn't give me something that was culturally inappropriate. It didn't feel right to him, didn't sound right, just to make my pattern. But he could do it, but we had to step around and think about what it was I was asking. And it made it sound really rude, so he never said it to me. But after a while, we talked about it, and I figured it out. Oh, okay, it's just my question. So it's the same kind of thing that Mary Haas had to do when she came to Eufaula, Oklahoma, and walked those 10 miles every day. And I think she was fairly tall, too. You remember? They said, yes. She would sit and do this work every, I think, 2, maybe 3 summers. And then the war broke out, the World War II. And that stopped her work and stopped the work that she had collected from being published. She'd always meant to come back and tidy it up. You know, nobody likes to see your dirty underwear when you have these notebooks, because there's all kinds of notations that you make to yourself, you know, for only yourself. And so she always meant to come back and fix it all up. And so Jack Martin met with her and knew her, and she gave that task to him, because he was studying what we call Muskogean languages, or even Creek. He was studying and working on Creek at the time. And so he always intended to come to this work, but the body of material was so vast. Like I said, this book is 800 some pages long now. And he finally got it done, like I was saying, and we have the text, and now we have the opportunity to go and look and pick out things that are germane to each of us, what we think we might want to know. We want to know about culture, how it maybe was at the time, or life ways, legends or folklore, the stories, what those mean. So I'm going to ask a question or two about that, all this right here in a minute here. So think about what it is you might want to think about wanting to discover or delve into as we go through this process of touching. We're just barely touching some of the stories in here, some of the tip of the iceberg, so to speak. So as we look back and look at this work, we're going to go on a journey, and hopefully through this journey we'll be able to glean some new light and some new way of, or new perspective on how to look at works like this. What can we gain from it? Of course, we can just read the English and be satisfied. But if we want to learn how to speak Greek and things like that, maybe in what's termed as the old way, this is an example of it, because it's captured verbatim at the time in 1936. So there's those things that we can look to. So some of the topics that we have in this book are that we're going to cover in this class for sure are his autobiography tonight. The stars, he talks about how the stars are, and there's a whole cosmology that's associated with that. And the effect of the Civil War. What else was there? A prayer, and we're going to end with the prayer that he has. And that leads to a whole another aspect of it. The idea of praying. And Christianity in itself, about little people. So we're going to be talking about little people too. And we're going to look at it, like I said, through the lens of trying to dissect, unpack these passages, just to help us understand a little bit more. So. Anybody? We'll just start here. What would you like to uncover or discover or learn about? We'll go down the line here. Don't know? Language? Okay. Most people like language. How about you, Bertha?
I would just like to just hear from other people, because not all of us speak quite the same way.
Mm-hmm.
So I always like to go and see how other Creeks came about they're saying their words and their ways.
Mhm.
There are differences.
Yeah, oh yeah. All right, next.
A little everything.
A little bit of everything. Well, you know, one thing that we have to realize too is we're here in what year is this now? 2016, new millennium and all that. You know, we modern people, modern Creeks. We'll say Creeks. I don't know about the people, but we'll just speak about Creeks. Are starting to get this sense that we're drifting away from what was our core. We won't say our past or whatever. We just say our core. And people are looking for a way to reconnect to that, and that's a good thing. That's one of the reasons why I agreed to do this is I can share what little bit of information I know about this, and hopefully help somebody to take it to the next level and things like that. Who else? What about you, Lewin?
Language.
Language? Okay. Next.
I think language would be the end result, but I think it's hard for me to think of how to do this. I wasn't brought up here, and I'm older now, so I miss everything.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what I want to know is everything. So I guess you start with, like you started with, the beginning,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and work your way forward, and whatever you can glean from the sides. That's what I want to know.
Okay, well, good. You're just ready for the ride, the trip, huh? The journey.
Exactly. I'm ready for the journey.
Mm-hmm. That's good. How about you?
You mentioned talking about the stars a moment ago. That sounded interesting.
Oh, yeah. How about Dashiell? What does he think?
Well, he's here to learn, right?
Yeah.
Especially the more we can have him here at Creek while he's still a baby.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
He'll start get that brain learning the Creek early.
A baby tends to change your focus, right? And looking at the things in the bigger picture, so to speak. How about you, Rosemary?
There are two stories in here that I read with people that were wanting to study something in particular. And the one that was on how to make a bow, and then talking to John Brown, who works for Creek Nation and does a lot of bow construction and all, to follow what they did, or what James Hill talks about as a way of doing it, and the way that John Brown does
it now, how it's different than then and now kind of thing?
Yeah, yeah. And then the other one that I enjoyed was how to kill a turkey. And I read that because of it talks about distance and proximity and flora and fauna, that kind of stuff. So to learn how to talk about numbers particularly, you know, how far is it? And so it's miles, and then how you measure where the animal is and things like that. So those two stories are the two that I've read.
Oh, yeah.
For me, I like the combination of language, history, culture, and really the attitudes that they had back then compared to what we have today. I'm interested in seeing that, listening to that.
She just dragged you here?
Yeah. A lot of the history and the culture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Teresa.
Bring along. No, I like to keep the storytelling and the stories, because we need to keep this kind of information alive and keep passing it on to our next generation. So that might have to be us to keep it alive and going on. So I think it's a good thing, and I like to hear the stories, and always love the linguistic part of it.
Sharon?
Language, history, culture. I've been around all of them, but just to get more in depth.
Mm-hmm.
Well, with me, what I know, I want to enhance on our language and the history and the culture then, and get some of our people back to good manners, our Indian manners and our Indian thinking.
What did Would you say, Rosemary, said they didn't, back then, we were looking at some other old documents from the History Center here, and they were talking about bad things, but they have good ways of talking about bad things, right?
There's funny ways to talk about that
And
thing.
yeah, exactly. They kind of took the edge off, or something that we don't have today anymore.
And that's what her mother did.
All right.
Maybe the songs, like what, you know, kind of where they come from, like what, you know, when somebody was, or even when they was written, like what they was feeling at that time. You know what I mean? Because that, you know, that's probably the realest you can be, right? When you're seeing something from the heart. And that's kind of I'd like to know more about the history of the old.
Yeah, I like to learn about the history and the language, culture of the street. That's what I read is on the European point of view. I like to get the native English.
All right. Ruth? Y'all just here?
Just reading about the way things were, how they handled things.
Well, for me, from a family perspective, a genealogical perspective, is kind of would be nice to see. This is a story. You can see him. You can picture him telling these or living these things as he's telling them. All right. So, all those things are great. Hopefully, we will be able to go in and into some of them. At least we're kind of short on the time of it, but hopefully with the information that we have on the website and the guidance and things that we can provide, hopefully in the classes themselves, will help each and every one of you figure out how to carry this forward, how to carry your studies forward. The main thing that I want to impress on everybody is the fact that you can't gain anything if you don't put forth the effort. So we need to make sure that we're making progress in trying to understand, trying to work our way through some of these things, and trying to commit ourselves to learning whatever it is we want to learn. If we don't do that, then it goes in one ear, and I need corks on both ends. So once it goes in, I need to cork it in because it tries to get back out real quick.
You know, language is such a delicate thing that one of my sons asked me. He said he went to the post office and this woman was a Seminole, because I told him before that she was Seminole. And he said, "What does "ehe" mean?" I said, "How did she say it? Did she say "ehe" or did she say "ehe"? So she said "ehe." So it's a delicate thing that we have to learn.
Oh yeah.
Teach our people.
Yes, and those are things that a lot of times are lost in a lot of the language teaching anymore because we don't have the speakers that we used to have. We don't have the elders there, so we're having to keep together what we can, and texts like this can help us keep it together as we move into the future. But again, the point that I want to make is, and I can't stress it enough, we need to invest the effort in learning whatever it is we want to learn. One of the things that I hear commonly through my travels throughout the United States, I was up in Massachusetts or New Hampshire area, and I was talking to a language advocate, we'll call it. She was studying her people's language, Passamaquoddy or one of those languages up that way. Not many speakers, and she was removed from the people, and she was having a difficult moment trying to stay focused on what it is, and had a fear. She had a fear that froze her, that kept her from embracing what it is she knew. She thought she didn't know enough. She thought, well, I never will know enough, so I need to find somebody else, and I need to find keep finding other things. And it's just like someone told me one time before, you just teach, you just tell what you know, because that's the information that you have to pass on. Whatever it is you have, that's what you can pass on. if it's a great deal or if it's a little. And one of the things that we always hear about in the ceremonial realm is that we have lost so much each passing generation. And we get feeling bad about this and that, but when the last statement comes, it usually says, but we have to keep on trying. And that's the thing that we have to learn to do, is to keep trying. We may not know everything there is to know, but we can pass on what we do know. That's our charge while we're here on this earth. Pass it on. Because if we don't, then they won't have anything, the ones coming behind us won't have it to rely on.
Out of all this, I want to add emphasis on something that I discovered later. As I told you, I didn't grow up here, but I always knew who my immediate family was. That's one thing as Indians that we're all still real close.
Mm-hmm.
You know who your relatives are, you know who your families are, your aunties and uncles and extended aunties and uncles, but you hear of other non-Indians, and they have lost contact and they may not see their brother for 15 years, or they may not know their aunt or their uncle. They may never have spent the night with their grandmother. They may never have had a bunch of kids all over at one time all laughing and playing and hear them laugh. And I think maybe also that by opening that up, you know, I want my children to know their relatives too, which unfortunately when you move away from where you are, you don't get to know them. And I would like them to keep in contact, because that's what happens. That's how this also builds up. The stories are told, not, you know, about even your own family, the stories you hear within your own family. Increases that knowledge you have of being who you are. And that's, with us, that's being Greek.
Yeah, that's exactly right. As we go through this process, we'll look at the text and some of the things that are involved in there. You see the PDF, so they have there. One's talking about the table of contents, so you see all of the. So you don't have to buy the text. I think it's like $65, and it's heavy. The guy dropped it on my doorstep, and it went slap. Oh, crap, what is that? But, hold on. And we're making use of educational fair use, and so I'll be reproducing some of the snippets that we'll be covering on the website, so you won't have to go but if there are other things that are there that you can see from the table of contents that we don't get to cover, then you may have to go out and buy the book. I'm not advocating either way, but I'm trying to make sure that we make it as easy as possible for you. And in making it easy as possible, again, the caveat goes with it. You have to put the effort in if you want to gain anything from it. So this is a prime example. This is from the Mary Haas notebook, her field notes. When she walked the 10 miles and sat down in James Hill's living room, she would ask him questions, and these are some of the things that would come up. So this is the style of writing that she would write, because that's the linguistic phonetic form that she used. And then she wrote the English translation of what it was that she was asking about. And these were boyhood names, I guess, that were given to people. Yeah, so this is what I have out here is a collection of names that were used by different people during boyhood. So you see here, she recorded this, although this was copied in 1969 anyway. She didn't, so her note right here, so there's a lot of cultural information that's contained. By the way, these are the field books that none of this, not much of this information is actually in the text, so I'm just giving you a behind-the-scenes look, so to speak, on what went into making these texts. And so one of the notes she would say was a boy generally didn't get a Basque name until he was 16, 17, 18 years old. So that's what James Hill was telling her, and she makes notes. Says Hill was 20, and his Basque name was, anybody read that?
No.
It says, Gata Homati. That must be that L. Homati. Homati. What's that Homati? I'm not sure if that's an S or that L that we use. So these are the things that I'll just scroll through. So, so I'm not sure if that's an L or a T as she wrote it. So that's Kacha Hamati. So he was, from his Basque name, we can gain if we knew this information, but other things will tell us, and he may even tell us in other stories in here. You get your Basque name, your ground name, from your clan lineage and from your a rank, so to speak. So he was Homati, which means the leader, and Kacha is the clan that he was. So he was Tiger Clan. So it's things like this that are interesting in these handwritings that she wrote. Muskogee, somebody being washed. I always like to look at people's names back then because some of them we see some names like that. Is Dashiell a Creek name? A lot of times we'll name our children with Creek names. And what's interesting about naming, if you look through the genealogy of it and the Dawes and stuff, they reuse names over and over again. Same names come up all the time. It's the same way at the grounds. For James Hill to get Kacha Homati as his ground name, as his Basque name, it had to be free. It had to be not used by somebody. But as soon as that somebody that was named it before, in the ceremonial way. And it's the same way with our regular names that we get, but these boyhood names is things that we would get. Anybody have a childhood name they know, Creek-wise?
I do.
What's that?
My great-grandmother, she named Eufaula.
What?
Eufaula.
What's that mean?
Evening star.
Evening star. Yafki Kulaswa. Yafki Kulaswa. No, you didn't raise it?
It was me.
Oh. What name was that?
Taichi.
Taichi. What's that mean?
It didn't mean go across, but I was named, that was my great-grandmother's name.
Oh. But it wasn't your given name, it was just your nickname, so to speak, right? Uh-huh.
And there's just several people that always called me. I mean, there was one man, I asked once my mom, I said, does he know I have a real name? Because I had never heard him call me anything.
That's exactly right. I'm that way.
Yeah, I don't have one, but my uncle used to call my son Israeli Hefty, and he gave him that name, but he didn't earn it inside the...
Yeah, it's a boyhood name, kind of like.
Yeah, that was just a name he gave him.
Yeah, my grandpa used to call me Dawudi.
Dawudi. That's my grandmother said Vegas all the time, so.
Yeah, my dad called me Chad, but it was short for Jimbo Funny.
Hey, look, anybody else?
I have a granddaughter that is named her Nakajagi, which means precious.
Uh-huh.
Hopefully she grow up to
Fit that name.
fit that,
Yeah, there you go, yeah. That's interesting.
One of my daughters is named Wahela.
Mm-hmm.
Wahela, and some of our people don't remember that name. They say, what is that name?
Yeah, that's an old term.
Very old, and of course, my grandmother spoke Mississippi,
Mm-hmm.
so that's another language,
Mm-hmm.
but very similar, but yet sometimes they're you can't understand.
Yeah. And Wahela means south?
Little bug dancing backwards.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. That's great. And that's from the Miskogee?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. That's cool.
Another one of my son's name is Kacha.
Mm-hmm.
Another one is Kanjati.
We used to play when I was little, and I didn't know that was his name. I just knew him that by Kalani. I just played with Kalani all the time, and he had yellow hair, and he was a little guy. We just played. I still don't know his real name.
That was my dad's name.
Kalani.
Kalani. I mean, that was his Indian, but he had a given name, but
Yeah.
that's all people knew him by.
Uh-huh.
We just found recently that we've been trying to find it for a long, long, long time. But Ispahicha was my great uncle
Mm-hmm.
and great uncle. And his half brother was London Coker. And so we just found recently, because I've been wanting to know their mother's names, finally I found that Kajadi was Ispahicha's mother.
Mm.
And we tossed it together because Kajadi was also London's mother.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we know they were half brothers.
Yeah. And Ispahicha means what?
Ispahicha, Kedak.
Mm-hmm. Something to see with or to seize into?
Something to see.
Ispahicha. My wife's father, Henry Factor, was named Sakicha. Sakicha, when it's seasoned or knows the water, sees inside the water. Yeah, he was good at shooting the arrows down and getting those fish. Because you know when you shoot at them, they're not there; they're over somewhere else. You got to take account for that. And so he knew how to do that real good. Anyway. So these are the things, I just want to show it just in brief, some of the ways that she transcribed what she heard. So this would have been a reflection of the things, the sounds that came out of James Hill's mouth, and she wrote them down according to how they produced them on the mouth, the phonetics or the phonetics of it, how it come out. Once we realize, from linguistics, we can realize the fact that the human voice can only produce a certain number of sounds. It can't produce an infinite number of sounds. So once we realize that, then we figure out what that body of sounds that it can produce are. And then we go and look at different languages and see which ones they use. And there are some that all languages pretty much use, and some that a lot of languages don't use, and some that are fairly rare. So we hear some of the Sub-Saharan Africans tribes have a click when they talk. I think some people even hear some of the Kickapoos. They have a whistle that goes with their talk.
Well, I know I'm talking too much, but one of my sons went to Jones and he said that there were some boys on the bottom, the dormitory bed on the bottom, and he said he woke up because they were about to choke. And so he jumped down to help them, but they were speaking their language. They go,
exactly, yeah.
no, it was up north though.
So linguistics then identifies what those sounds can be, and they give them symbols, and so that's what all of these are. And so this one, that L with the line in it, is that chi, like in thutho that we have. That's our sound. And so we see these things, and so it's just like a court stenographer. She can just hear somebody and just write it down without thinking too much about what it is she's writing. And then she'll go back and ask, or what did this, and she could repeat what she just heard just from what she wrote right there. So she would say, well, what does that mean? And she would say the word. And somebody would say, if they knew it English, they would change it to English and say, that means this or that. So it was a back and forth process in getting the information, one word at a time in the beginning. Then she got a handle on how to sound grouped together, and so she could do longer and longer pieces. But at first it was just one word at a time. So she used names to get some of that information. Hopefully, Hai. I don't know, that's a D, I'm not sure what that is. Oh, it's a T in it. Then Hai, anyway, where am I going here? So, what's neat about this, and we're talking about, I'm not sure if this is in the text or not, but from her notebooks we can see that. So the same kind of information can be gleaned hopefully from the text. But from her notebook she put down the children's name and then girls' names. Girls' names are something that we hardly ever hear about in the history or in text. Where somebody has a personal recollection of what the name. And so the fact that she was able to capture some of those is really kind of neat.
Well, does anybody know the, how do you pronounce this? Muskogee or Muskogee? It was a town in South Carolina that the woman was the chief.
Oh yeah, that
Muskogee or Muskogee?
Yeah, and they really don't know if that's the actual name. It's just a name that was given to it by the archaeologists and things. So.
But it must have been the old Haitian dialect because they pronounce everything with the E on the end. And Chiki.
Yeah, talking about corn. I mean, house. So here, and these are on the website again, so you can look at it. So this is one of the stories that we have, just to show you how she did this. So this is a story that is in the text, and this is how she would have wrote it, and we can look at how they wrote it in the text. But we'll look at the autobiography of what we're going to do tonight. But she writes in here that it's section 2 or notebook 2, page 157 to 185. So she makes the notes on, and then when James Hill wrote some of these down, so he was literate, and so he was able to write some of these stories down for her, and then she transcribed them from as he was speaking them. She captured his tone, intonations. So the notebooks have, to me, a great deal of information. So she puts the English meaning behind underneath those, and those are the things that we will see in the text. The same meaning that's associated with each of the words. So how did we use that? How could we use that? We could use that to look them up, right? Or to memorize them. Well, let's see if we'll go to the one that we're going to be looking at tonight. James Hill autobiography. So this is the text that's in James Hill, his autobiography. So here we see it's Hill number 2, page 14 to 20. This story is in his handwriting, but she transcribes it again in the book. Who has the book? Book number, well, it's in book 20 is what it is, page 179. It's got the little tabs on it, the little green tab on it. I mean, a purple tab, purple.
Jeremy has it.
Oh, Jeremy has it, yeah. Oh. Yeah. That's fine. So we see how this text is constructed. So what Jack Martin and Margaret Malden and it all did was they rewrote these into what we call modern Creek spellings. I don't want to use the word orthography, but orthography. And they wrote it down in the modern form, Then they put the phonemic version underneath there on that line. So these lines are 1, 2, 3, 4. So here's the Creek writing on line 1, the phonemic writing of that. Then the translation of each of the words, the gloss they call that, and then the free translation on the bottom, the English of it. So, and that's where a lot of people, without all that knowledge, will just look at the English of it. But if we want to look at each word and see, so we can figure out how to say these words or learn these words. So what town are we talking about here? Anybody? Can they read that?
Maybe Greenleaf, right?
In Stajati, in Crete.
I can't even think.
Ashilanabi.
That's Greenleaf. That's a stopping ground.
And they said Idalwa. When they say Idalwa in front of it, what does that mean to anybody? So this is a cultural thing that comes up. It's the tribal town, the ceremonial town. So the English gloss down there says the people lived in a town by the name of Greenleaf. You know, if you read that without any context, you think that it has a post office and a bank and a Walmart and those sorts of things. But no.
You would say Ashilani.
So we can see that even the gloss, a town, doesn't quite fit, you know, because it's the tribal town, and so it gets lost a little bit. So who can read that first line? Oh, you can't see? Let's see if I can blow it up. Is this mine? Oh, this is mine.
There you go. There we go, right here.
Oh, you want to put a ringer there?
Yeah. No, I don't want that one. I want one that doesn't have to look at it a minute. So what I want us to think about is what kind of information can we get from just looking at something like this? We know there's the meaning of each of the words, so we can have a gloss. We can use our dictionary, our old one or the green one, the Martin Malden one, to look these words up and things. But what we need to think about is how can we say those words? Where is my cursor? Go right there.
Okay, that first one,
So the one thing that when we learn language, and so this is the language lesson that we're going to take from this, and then I'm going to leave up the rest of it to you all to go further with. And it's funny because I used to cite from or use a grammar that was produced by James Buckner, and he wrote that in 1856, I believe. It was part of the American Baptist sort of Foreign Mission Association that came to the tribe. And anyway, he did the same thing. He was a linguist, and he learned the language, and he wrote down all these grammar rules. And in the front of his book, he says, once you learn the sounds of the language and how to produce them, then you can read anything in the language. Reading is one thing, understanding is a completely different. So what we're going to learn tonight is basically just how to read. We may not understand what it is we're saying, but we have it right here. We can look. So what's to keep somebody from learning how to learn the language? There's the basis of it right there. So we want to use that as our base. We want to learn how to read the language. And what we're going to use is, we're not going to use the linguistics unless you want to.
That'd be easy, because I can read it, but still.
What we're going to do is we're going to use the Creek words, the modern Creek words. And I say modern because if we looked at James Hill's text, and if Jack is on, hopefully send us a copy or two of James Hill's actual text and see how he wrote. Then we can read those things. So the thing that we have to remember to do is to break these words into syllables.
If there were accents, though, it would be easier if there were accent marks.
Yeah, that throws an extra layer that the missionaries didn't bring to us. So we realized that the missionaries brought the written form to us, and they, like James Buckner, they wrote them down, and then Alice Robertson wrote down the Analyzer Robertson wrote the dictionary, that first dictionary, and transcribed much of what we know as the Bible, the Creek Bible, as part of this missionary effort that came to the tribe. And so when they did this back in the 1850s and through the 80s, 70s maybe, they didn't capture any kind of stress patterns. And so much of the work that we see is from that effort that the missionaries gave to us. So if we look at James Hill's work, he won't have any stress marks on his, I'm sure. He'll just have writing. Let's see if I can. I have my document up. I was going to show you one of the. One of the oh no, it's in my it's in my Photoshop. So I'm working on this project right now to identify all of the Creek language documents that the Oklahoma History Center, the Historical Society, has, and transcribe them. And so I get a chance to look at where am I get the chance to look at all of these old documents written probably 10, 20 years after they were brought to the tribe.
Well, when you get good at it, I'll bring you a document that's this thick. It's nothing but...
Stajati.
Uh-huh.
Well, I'm like...
And I just translated a few words.
Uh-huh.
None of it makes sense. There's not a whole lot of them I can read.
Well, Bert is one of our best speakers in our tribe, in the Seminoles.
Mm-hmm.
I said, Bert is one of our best speakers of the Seminoles.
Thank you. My dough. I forgot it was another language class.
Let's see, what am I looking at here?
And the other thing I'd like to mention, Ted, too, is in different areas where you've grown up, they speak a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And they emphasize things a little bit.
Yeah, and that's what that's a big holdback to a lot of people. Well, we'll forego that because I can't find it right on. And that brings me back to the point of this. It's good to recognize the fact that there are these differences. What's not good is to dwell on them too much. The fact is that if you can understand what's being said and they understand you, then that's the basis of it. Then you just have to remember that yours is different than theirs, and theirs is okay as is yours, your form. And what's really cool is there's a whole science of linguistics behind it that can explain all these differences, how we're all connected.
And there are some Greek words that the Seminoles use that are different. And if you're talking to a full-blood Creek, you make sure exactly what they're asking for. Because this lady asked me in Creek, Chawuma Navises. Well, to me, Chawuma is four in Seminole. I went over and I got a fork and I brought it to her and she said, now you should get the go. But Chawuma ma picture 60 ma question. Chawuma ma ya. Now you use it to do what? I told her. Chawuma knocked over, and then finally she explained to me she wanted a needle. She didn't know she over Creek Lane. I gave her four. Because, I mean, for me, in Seminole, that's what she asked for. She wanted a four. So I bought her a four.
And so that brings up a classic example, and I love to use that as my teaching point. The word is trufunwa, and it's been shortened because what we do in language is we modify it every generation. It gets modified little bit by little bit. It changes. Language is a living organism, and it changes. And the quicker that we can realize that happens, then we can get on with the fact of understanding what's going on. So trufunwa is a shortened form of what used to be ijofuni, which is a deer bone.
And that's probably what they used to ask about.
A needle. They used that in the beginning because the deer bones crack pointy, real sharp. And so they used those to make the holes and to sew those hides up and those sorts of things that they needed to have sewn up. Then the head could come along and they bring these things that you eat with, and they got little pointy things. Well, I guess back in the day there was only two maybe. Anyway, they had pointy things on them, so that got modified by some to be the fork. And so some people understand it as fork, some people understand it as needles. And the fact that we can understand that it's something pointy, that's all we need to use. We need to understand that and kind of move on. The more that we harbor on the fact that there is these differences and we shut down, and then we can't learn anymore. So my point to everybody, if we don't know the history of it, that's fine. But try to understand that there are these differences and each of us are just as equally correct. And, my other memory is my grandfather was Seminole, or from Sassacua area, half Creek and half Seminole, but they lived in Sassacua. And my grandmother's from Lamar area, and they had a different way of speaking. He had this low, slow kind of way, and it would get it real going, but my grandmother had this other way that seemed really fast. But they could understand each other, and they all knew how to turn around and say the one word that I knew, wait. Fast, slow, I knew that.
Thank you so much for saying that, because that was one of the difficulties in say society, and I said we say society, but I said when my grandmother used to say it, it had a whole other syllable to it. And he said, that's interesting. And I said, well, I'm seeing now that you have a real hard task. But he said also that helped him and Margaret was the context of where the word was used. Because then you have to look at it, whether it's modern or is it older. And I said, that must be hard because that means every part of the text has to be sub-analyzed to see what its content is and what the meaning is supposed to be. And that made this translation very difficult.
Yes.
Thank you for adding that to this very difficult.
Yeah, it is. And it's something that gets lost a lot of times, and it hinders more than it helps. We just need to realize that it's all language. Language changes. We have differences. but in the base of it, there's very much similarity. You know, we can read that, even though James Hill was from Eufaula, and you know, people north of I-40 say differently, and so we have dialects, and those are good to have, and it's good to know that they do exist, but just to acknowledge them and move on to your version, and realize that it's all equally valid. My lesson about how to read this, and this is what we want to do. So I'm going to take you down a path here, and we're going to come back to this. The key to this, looking at and reading Creek language, like we're going to see in this text, we have the gloss, we have the definition of it, and we have the translation, the free translation of the bottom. So there's all the information that we need. And if we want more, there's the linguistics of it. But we want to learn how to read and sound these out. Then we can start attaching meaning to the different pieces of it. So the key to reading the language, like James Buckner said in his grammar in 1856, break the words down, and this is what the basis of the Creek readers that we have. The Creek Reader 1 that came out from the missionaries is they broke it down into syllables, or they gave you the syllable structure, or syllables, and let you learn them. Then you can apply that to here. So we would break these words down into each syllable. So we would say e, do, and then wa. So there's 3 syllables in that word. Us, si, lan, la, na, be. So 2 and 3 letter syllables is what we're looking to do. But we want to make sure that we know what they look like and what they sound like when we see them in a word. If we have to split the word up and break it up with lines or dashes, then that's fine. But those are the things that will help us when we maybe it's a Word document. No, it's not. That will help us when we I'll have to go to the website. I know I have it on the website. When we want to break these words down. There we go. Oh, if I don't have PDF for it. So we have this exercise from the Creek readers and things like that. So we understand that that each of we learn the alphabet is what we do first, right? We know the alphabet, and we've had classes ad infinitum about alphabet and syllables and things. But until we learn how to put them together and use them in an effective way, then we'll never get beyond that. So what we need to do is be able to recite the whole thing with each of the sounds. So what this is teaching us is what we call, I think my sister learned it that way, how to read and write in English. And they called that way back when, can't tell you when, so get on to me. Hooked on phonics kind of thing. So this is the phonics side of it. So we see that the C and the A, the C in Creek alphabet is what kind of sound does the Creek alphabet, C make? Ch, right? And we see the vowels behind it. So we see that our syllables are constructed of a consonant and a vowel. So these are all the vowels that are contained in the Creek language. The A, the E, A, O, U, and the Right? So we just need to combine that ch with the A, and we end up with what? Cha. The cha and the and we end up with che. The cha and the chi. The cha and the che. Cha o cho. Cha and the chu. Cha and the cha. So once we can do that, we can do that with all of these. And you know, most of these sounds are pretty much as they are in English. The F is like it is in English. The H The K has two different forms. It sounds either like English K, or it also has the G sound. And so what we learned from linguistics is those are the same sounds. They produce from the same area of the mouth. K, G. Same thing happens. The only difference is we vibrate our... I poke my Adam's apple. we vibrate our Adam's apple, our voice box, when we say that G sound. G, K, G, K. That's the only difference. So some of these have that difference. They vibrate or they don't vibrate. Basically, that's all we need to know, except the fact that the I makes the A sound, the V makes the and the R makes the, what we call in linguistics, the lateral fricative. I'm spitting on my computer. And it appears that the way I understand it, or the way I've heard it before, is the more full-blood you are, the more spitty that sound is, that R sound. It's interesting because I look at the Choctaw language in their dictionary that was done by Byington back in 1900s or thereabouts. Same thing, missionary for them. And they have, Choctaw is very, very similar to Creek. They're related in the family way, linguistically way, family. And in their language, they have the HL sound for a lot of things. One thing about the missionaries is when they come to capture our language, sometimes they didn't hear everything. And I think the Choctaws had a missionary that didn't capture everything. And so they missed that sh sound. And they wrote it down as HL. So the Choctaws today just use the HL. But I almost guarantee that they had that sh sound also, like we do. So, learning how to do these is a fairly straightforward thing to do. The A makes the the E makes, the short E makes long E. The I makes the A sound, O. The U makes U, and the V makes So I won't ask you to do it individually, but if you can do it with me together, we'll go the C, the F, H, and two versions of the K. All right? Cha, chi, or che, chi, che, cho, chu, cha, fa, fe, fi, fe, fo, fu, fum. It reminds, every time I do that, it reminds me of fee, fi, fo, fum. I always do that, sorry. Ha, he, hey, ho, hu, ha, ka, ke, ki, ke, ko, ku, ka. Now the vibrated part. Ga, ge, gi, ke, go, gu, ga. There you go. So if you just practice those, and every time you see them in a word, that sound will come out. So you just got to realize that a word is broken up into a consonant and then a vowel, generally. Sometimes the consonant will be, the vowel will be in front, like that word idola, that E was in front. So how would we do these? The AF, EF, and so on. So, off, F, Ef, Af, Oaf, Oof, Uff. Now, the second one will have two forms, right? The regular K and that vibrating, the G sound. Ok, ek, eek, ache, ook, ook, up. Now the vibrating, the G sound. Og, egg, eeg, egg, og, oog, ug. All right. teach this in our semesters up at OSU, we always try to worry about what we call the Okie speak. So there's a difference between the EK and the IK, right? The short E and the I. So we can have ek, and then ache, or egg, and egg, right? And A, there's a difference. But in Okie speak, we have that southern drawl. We tend to conflate those. We make them the same sound. And so in Creek, we need to be able to separate those. Who has that Okie speak? Right there. You can tell. So we just need to be aware that there is a difference in those. So once we learn those, and so I hazard to say that you need to practice these all the time. So when you see them in the Word, it's not that difficult to pop it out if you're going to pop it out, even in your head. The best way to do this is the best way to learn the language. Anybody know that? Speak it. Be little. Be a baby. They just pick it up. You know, if it's spoken around them, they just pick it up. You don't have to teach them anything. They just learn it. They learn it within 4 years. They'll be 80% fluent in 4 years without even taking them to a class. But since we're not all babies, we have to drill it. We have to drill it into our heads. So the best way to do that is how? Practice how?
With somebody.
With who? The number one complaint or gripe or concern I hear from people is there's nobody to practice with. Pet? Anybody have a pet? Teach your pet. Rosemary has fluent chickens.
I have a dog that's learning.
It's fluent, yeah. Well, let me tell you this story. There's this old man, this is out in the ring, when we're in the ring, an old man telling these stories. You know, it's way at night, and he's telling the story. He goes, yeah, this old man was visiting, and this white man was there, and that old white man says, we call him an ugly name, what we call ugly today. He says, dude, I won't say what he said. Dude, that dog sure is smart, because every time you say that word, you know, he just gets and he just takes off running. He gets embarrassed and runs off. He throws his tail down and takes off running. It really gets him embarrassed with that word. The other guy says, well, what word? You know, the one you tell your dog. And oh, yeah. So he tells the dog, I see Jays. I see Jays. The way they said it, it says, I see Jay, I see Jazz. I see your ass is what the Stehecky man thought he heard. And I see just means chase it. You chase it. So he's telling that dog to do that, and then the white man said, oh man, he's got all embarrassed. He put his tail down and he took off running. Anyway. So practice these things. So the next thing that we would see in a word, first off, we would see a consonant, a vowel. Sometimes the vowel will be in front by itself, or a vowel and a consonant. That's kind of infrequent, but consonant vowel is the most preferred form. Second one would be the consonant vowel consonant, which we see the 3-letter syllables formed. So we have a consonant on both ends and a vowel in the middle. So the first one will be hawk, heck, heek, hake, hoke, hoop, huck. Right? That's simple. Or if we use the vibrating form, hog, heg, heeg, hag, hogue, hoog, hug. Is anybody going to ask me when we use which one? Somebody asked me. Oh, how do you know which one to use? If there are in the word, if you look at it in its full form, if there's a vowel in front of that K, or the ones that the S and the T and the P, if there's a vowel in front and a vowel behind it, it's surrounded by vowels. So that consonant then feels like a vowel, and then vowels vibrate. You know, what did we do in English a long time ago? A, E, I, O, you know, we did that. O. When you do a vowel, you just change the shape of your mouth and vibrate. And that makes the vowel. But a consonant, you have to stop the air and make it do something. And so, G. So we're building up the air, G, but we're vibrating at the same time. So when a consonant is surrounded by vowels, a vowel in front, a vowel behind it, it's going to feel like a vowel, and so it'll vibrate. It'll get that other sound. Right? In 3 letter syllables, it's hard to see that, but C-E-P-A-N-E, right? This is how we spell it. C-E-P-A-N-E. Boy, right? C-E-P-A-N-E. How do we say that? Chibani or Chibani?
Chibani.
What was it? Okay. I thought you were trying to say the P sound. So we see that C-E-P-A-N-E has a E in front of the P and an A behind it. Vowels, right? So that P gets voiced, and that voiced P sounds like the B. Right? Simple. Just remember. So we'll read this next several. So the first line, the second line is going to be like it is in English. The third line has 2 forms. The S has 2 forms: the regular S sound or the voice Z sound almost. All right. So haul, hail, heel, hail, hole, pool, hull, Haas, Haas, Hees, Haas, Hos, Hus, Hoos, and then Hus. Now the alternate form is the Z sound. Haas, Hez, Hees, His, Haze, Haze, Hose, Whose, Huz. Oh, that's too close. We better quit that. So, again, it gets that Z sound, that voice sound, that vibrating sound, if there's a consonant in front and a consonant behind that S. So how do we say H-O-K-T-E? So the K is one of the ones that will change, and the T is one that can change. H-O-K-T-E. Why not Hog-T? Hog-D. Why doesn't it sound right? But there's a linguistic rule that we can lean on now. It's not that vowel. The consonant is not surrounded by a vowel. Yeah, the K has a T behind it, which is not a vowel. That T has the K in front of it, so they both get the non-vibrating form. And so that's it in a nutshell. And I stress to practice reading all of these. And let's see what sounds. The K, S, T, P, and the C. I think all have those voice forms. So.
I have a question. What about the EU?
The diphthong, U.
It's U.
EU.
EU.
UE, or EU or UE. So we don't have too many of them. Uiwa. Uiwa. There's a W sometimes in there. Some dialects will put a W in it. So that dialect thing comes up real prominent in that word for water. Some will say Owa. Some will say Uiwa, diphthong, and some say Oiwa.
So they're all correct?
They're all correct.
They're just kind of
Just how they learn how to do that sound.
It just matters, it's a matter of where you live.
Yeah, where you live.
Just like when you're from the south, you speak differently from people in the north. And our people are the same way. If you live in a certain section of Justin and I go up there and I'm talking to a creek, they'll just kind of look at me like, where'd you come from? Don't you know the job? So, I mean, it's just.
Yeah, so we see that in, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, Ted, and he woke us.
I was just getting ready to go there. Go ahead, say
I
it.
was going to say that's supposed to be something about water.
Water, so we. So we've cut, in the anglicized form of those, we've cut off the O sound because it's not stressed. What else? What other towns? We'll use towns as our example. What other towns that we have that pertain to water? We Tamka, we Woka, we Lipka. How about up in Tulsa? Wilgofke. Yeah. How about in Tulsa? They have a place called, was it High Springs or Spring, Big Spring or Sand Springs? But they have a street down there called Wegawa. That means spring. All have that common element, that oiwa. So some use the O still, some don't. Some use the diphthong, we, and some use the W. But all means the same thing. It's just dialect differences. Then if we get into Hitchiti or Miccosukee sign, then they tend to use a little bit more ok or uk. And we have those remnants in the Creek language too, that mean water. So we see words like what? Okfuskee, the county. Everybody know the county? Okfuskee. What does that mean? Sharp water, pointy water, Okmulgee, boiling waters.
So oak means water too?
Uh-huh. But more of a Hitchiti and Hitchiti for us, and Miccosukee. And what's interesting, and so here's a history. When we were living in the southeast, we had our towns in different places that we know the upper creeks and lower creeks and things like that. In the lower creek area near them were the Hitchiti folks, further up on the Chattahoochee River. But in general, they were all classified as lower creeks. So the mixture of Hitchiti folks was mixed with the creek proper and the upper creeks. So the upper creeks, when they moved to Oklahoma, they mostly settled along the South Canadian River. The upper creeks settled up on the Arkansas, generally, towards Tulsa and all that. And the Hitchitis along Deep Fork, in the middle. And then, of course, the Uchis up by where they are. But so the towns that we see now, the Okfuskee and Okmulgee and all those, that's a Hitchiti area. So it's really kind of cool to me. They're all related. And the stories I would hear, what I hear was back in the old days, those people would come to meet at a big busk celebration or whatever, where all the towns in the tribe would come to meet, and they would meet all the time, and there would be different tribal towns, and they would meet, and they all had their different dialect. And it didn't matter to the group because each of the people in that group knew those other dialects. They could speak, they could get up and speak in that dialect, or they could understand what was being said in that dialect. And they didn't quibble over the fact that you're different, then he's different, then I'm different. They just did it. That's what's cool to me about looking into the past a little bit, and this is going there to look and to see those sorts of things. And so what we can see is, for one, language changes. We can see that he probably is using things that we don't use anymore, and those are things that are really neat to delve into. So we look back at that text. So we see E, do, wa. We see the syllable, right? E, do, wa. Us, see, us, and then C. So a vowel and then a consonant. Us, see, la, na. Vowel, consonant, consonant, vowel, consonant, vowel, consonant, vowel. Us, see, la, na, be. What's the next one? The one that's highlighted. Anybody guess? Sound it out. Slow. O, jif, jif, gi. So the syllable break is between the F and the K, right? So we have a three-letter syllable there. C-E-F. Jif. Ho, jif, gi. And they mark the long E. Next one is what? Is. How about this last one, or that next to the last so we can see that? Bo, ga. So K-A-T will be the last. A bo, ga. And that means living, looks like. And then oven. O-V, O-O-F, V-N. How does that F become a V sound? Right? Oven. We talked about it. I spent how many minutes? Oh my God, people. There's a vowel in front and a vowel behind. That F then gets the V sound. Oven. So how do we say dog? E-F-V. E-F-V. Ifa or Iva? All right. Who says, raise your hand. Who says it, Ifa? All right, who says Iva? Use it in a sentence.
Iva odeados plastidos.
How does Mark go on?
Iva odeados.
Did she say if or iv? Did we hear it? Iv. You said the V. Put your hand back down.
I'm from the old school.
It all sounds, and that's the key. That's the key, Bertha, and for everybody. It doesn't matter. We understand it. It doesn't matter if it's voiced or vibrating or not. You know, we can still pick out what we're trying to say.
Well, kind of when you say Ivan, to me it's just like that dog. Ivan.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This adds a little more to it.
But I was trying to get the distinction between.
It's one single.
Yeah. Ifa or Iva. Most people say Iva, not Ifa. But if we cut it short, my uncles always used to call me this. Fa Julie. Fa Julie. That E was dropped off because it's unstressed, but it's still dog. And now we don't have a vowel, so it's the regular F instead of the V. He didn't say Va Julie. He said Fa Julie. Old dog. He always used to call me old dog. He called everybody old dog, by the way. So, we'll go down here a little bit. We didn't take much time to sound that out, but that R, we sound each of them. So the first syllable, the break is right between the two R's, right? So, can we read it? Somebody read it? Holthy. Holthy. See, go. Go, right? The G sound. Go. Because there's a vowel in front and there's a vowel behind. Go. And it's the G sound that N has that, they call it a nasal. N or M. And so they're vowels because they vibrate. So it feels like a vowel to that K. So that K becomes voice and has that G. Mongof. Do you say it that way, Rosemary? Mongof or Monkof? Mongof. All right. How about this next one? The name. Hadam? Sigo Maha. Again, the G sound, right, for that K. Cool. See, now you're reading. right?
What does that mean, single mom?
Says nothing at all.
Oh.
See, nothing at all. Someone's name, single mom. Anybody know what anybody named single mom? That's cool because the footnote talks about single maha says almost nothing at all. And an old man over at Hannah. So that's probably one of the side notes in that text right there. It'd be cool to see. And it said it was a 7 month baby. 7 months baby. So that means what? Premature, right? It was born at 7 months, too early. And so he was so small they didn't expect him to live. So they gave him that name. Nothing at all.
So what is maha?
In that sense, with sigo, it means it's
Nothing.
It's just an emphasis on the nothing. Emphasis on it.
A state being.
Yeah.
A state of being.
But maha, it means, it just by itself means a whole different thing. But with that word sigo, it means it's enhancing that word nothing. So those are the kind of things that hopefully we will come to discover or talk about. So this line here, this is cool. Just to give it my last thing I want to talk about because I think I'm running out of time. You're going to cut me short here. So we read that line for me, somebody. Oh, there's an M. Moment. It's M-O-M-O-H. And moment. Isti, lusty, hopti. What's the next one? What? Cha. Cha ho jifkadis. Cha ho jif ka. Oh, you don't have a ka. Cha ho jifadis. I think that's a misspell. Jimmy, Margaret. Jimmy. So we see the gloss down there, and she named me. Me is the cha. So that's part of a conversation that we usually teach as a beginning to show the difference between things that we can stick on words to make them mean different things. Chaho Jifkadi is my name. Chaho Jifkados is my name is. And then Jimmy, if we were turning it around. Chiho Jifkat would be, your name is Chiho Jifkada. Chiho Jifkadoma would be, what is your name? And then Jimmy, Chaho Jifkados is how we would say it. So the difference between those is we can stick something on these words like the cha, the CV there, or chi. Cha means my, chi means yours. And we see that over and over again.
So moment, that's in and then?
Yes, in that sense.
So that's pretty much how we start sentences on moment.
Yeah. I can hear my grandfather say that, I don't know, every other word it seemed like, and when he give a speech, and it just moment this, moment that, and it was on and on and on.
Moments, what's that?
Moments.
Moment is just kind of like an interjection. You can say the sentence without ever putting that word in there, but it just kind of, I think that sometimes the speaker will use that word so it'll give you time to organize it.
Collect his thought, exactly,
So that's actually a bad word to say then if you're a speaker.
Huh?
Because you said that's like, don't stop about. You said a moment. Yeah.
I'm going forward too.
Yeah. And so it's like that all the way around. So again we see, let me scroll it over. We see that cha come up again here. Right there. So Ifki is father. E-R-K-E. Ifki. But my father becomes, what is that? Chufki. Your father would be what? Chifki. Cha-chi. So the kinship terms take that same kind of you and me that cha and chi forms. So those are things that we can pull from looking at these texts. Even if we didn't know much, it's just associating what the word sounds like by remembering our syllables and the structures of it, and then looking at the definition. I call it the gloss. That's what we call it. Linguists call it the gloss, and then tying it in and making a connection there. All right. Any other questions? I think I run out of time, so I might have to stop. No questions? So, before we leave, these texts are on that website. Pull them down, look at them, read them, practice the syllables, because you're going to be reading these texts to us next time we meet. Well, no, wait a minute. Well, next time it'll be online, so I'll have everybody here.
What's the website?
They can go to redstickwarriors.com.
Yeah, Redstick Warriors has a link on it to where the text is. Redstickwarriors.com.
Usually when you say my name is, don't you put your name first, then you say that?
Yeah. Mado. Thank you all.
All right, let's go ahead and give Mr. Isham a round of applause. Really appreciate having him here. And on the website, you'll be able to see the next class that is going to be online. And then our third class will be back with Mr. Isham. And the fourth class will be online. And then our final class will be back with Mr. Isham. Before everyone leaves, we have a door prize for everybody that signed in. And before I do that, I want to make an announcement. First, I want to thank Teresa Guys. If I could get a round of applause for Teresa Guys. She's one of the directors here at the Oklahoma City Muskogee Association. And they've always been real nice to us. We've done some interviews here and some other classes here. And I want to make an announcement for them. They're going to be having a family movie night right here on February 20th. And they're going to be showing Sterling Harjo's film, This May Be the Last Time. And so that's going to be at 5 o'clock. Okay, and if you have children in a separate room, they're going to show a children's movie there, Despicable Me, for them. And then we're going to have hot dogs, nachos, popcorn, soda. So I'd like for you guys to support them. So I'm going to ask Mr. Isham to draw a couple of names here, and we're going to give away a door prize. Jeremy, what are we going to do first?
Your call.
Okay, let's go ahead and give away a camera. Okay. All right. All right. So. All right. And what number is that?
17.
Number 17. Cameron Frank. Okay, that's my son, so we're going to do it again.
Pull again, all right.
Okay.
It's not rigged.
No, not at all. That was a good try,
though. Ballyhokul and Humgundalagan. 21.
Ron Graham.
Oh,
me. All right.
Yeah,
all right.
That.
We've got another door prize, and let me go grab it. It's a Muskogee hymn book, paraphrase, phrase translation. So you get the English and the Muskogee translation of this. So, what number we got here?
Ballin Ostogagen, 14.
Okay. Okay, I can't make out the first name, but the last name looks like Probosco.
Yearin.
Oh, all right. All right.
Dashel won again.
Is that still good?
No, Lear.
Oh, okay.
She signed for him, though.
All right. So, if no one has any further announcements, I want to give a special thanks to Robin York and Ruth Bible Ingram, who drove a long way to get here, and we really want to thank you for allowing us to do this.
So why are we going online?
Yes.
Explain.
Yeah, Jeremy, the next online class.
Why are we doing that?
Oh, online? Online is going to be so that people can follow up with us without actually having to drive to Oklahoma City each time. But we do like the community gathering, so every other one will be together. So the next class will be online. I don't really have the specific date on that, Jeremy, but it's on the redstickwarriors.com website. There'll be we'll post a schedule for you guys.
It'll be on Facebook too, right?
Yeah, it'll be on. We have a Facebook page, RSWA Muskogee Culture Study Group. All right.
We have someone requesting to
Oh.
pronounce father again.
Okay.
Father, Iski. So it's spelled E-R-K-E, and of course the Creek R is a sh sound. She. Lateral fricative is what the linguists call it. Iski, and then when we say my father, then we drop that E off because Iski means his or hers or its father, and we possess it and say Chusky. C-V-R-K-E. Chusky. That's my father. But your father, you would say Chisky, would put C-E in front. Chisky. Chusky, Iski.
What about when they add the T to the end of it?
That's when you use it in a sentence. Yeah, it depends on if it's the subject or object noun.
Do we have any more questions online?
No, that was it.
Okay. By the way, these green books, Ted's going to need to get those back.
Oh, yeah.
We did have a question. Where can they get a copy of those?
Of those,
Yeah.
I had to go to Berkeley, to the linguistics department.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to have a special announcement. I want to welcome Ron Graham. He's with the Muskogee Creek Indian Freedmen Band, and he's going to make an announcement.
First of all, Ted, it's good seeing you.
Yeah.
I haven't seen you in a while.
Oh, for real.
I'm the president of the Muskogee Indian Freedmen Band, and I'll be having a presentation tomorrow at the Oklahoma Historical Society at 6 o'clock tomorrow evening about the Creek Freedmen. So anyone is welcome. If you want to come and see the presentation, deals with the Dawes Commission, the genealogy, the history, some of the 1866 treaty. So I strongly encourage you to come on out if you want to learn a little bit more about the Creek Freedmen. Come on out, okay? I sure appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
Yes.
Can you share us an Indian song?
I'm not good at singing, so I hate to do that.
He is.
All right, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
My mom just said, you don't know if you're going to sing it right or wrong. So but I'm not singing it right.
Well, we'll join in with you if we know it.
Okay. I just want to share like how sometimes we sing and sometimes we learn to get it right, but you got to hear it. And sometimes it's different in different churches. And somebody told me one time, he said, at least you're learning, you're singing. So, and I only sing because I love to sing. I love it. So I'll sing one I really like. It's Chioko Sagaris. Is that saying it right? Chioko Sagaris. Okay. So this is how I kind of heard it. So let's do the best I can here like that. So. Chioko Sagaris. Shina or aparis moles ome awachin o
You know what that means?
When you keep striving, Chilocosakis keep striving forward. When you feel like you can't go any further. Keep, maybe you can.
Rosemary, you good at those? What does that song mean?
Don't be weary or tired.
To keep
Not
on.
hold on to these, don't be grumpy. Keep your resolve and keep going forward.
And that's a lesson that we all need to keep in mind as we do anything that we do.
All right, thank you.
Let's see. Good one, good one.
He learned from him, he thought he was supposed to sound just like him.
What was your name?
Marcus.
Marcus, what's your last name?
Freedom.
Marcus Freedom. It's good to see young people doing that. I really appreciate that. And I want to give a special thanks to Jack Martin, and who was able to make sure this book was released this past summer. Along with those translations, he had the help of the late Margaret Malden and her sister Juanita McGurk. So I want to make sure that I give a special thanks to them. I want to thank you all for coming, and thank you, Mr. Isham.